for the state meeting. And also we have Osam and Emily Sakamoto. And one of these days I'm going to say it right. I don't know if I did, but I'm working on it. Okay, and they're going to Tokyo, Japan. You all know them. It was not that long ago that they were here, and they're also here because of the state meeting. And I've asked Osam and Emily to come first and just give us an update on where they are on their fundraising, and maybe a little bit where all you've been and what you have scheduled for the future. So why don't you guys go ahead and come at this time, and let's give them a hand as they come.
Good evening, Bakersfield. Thank you so much for having us again. I just want to take this moment. Thank you, Pastor Mark, for sharing this, giving us this time to update you on where we are. We're still hitting the road so good, and last time we were traveling, we were in Pennsylvania, we came back to Illinois, and then we came to California. And we continue to travel. Next big trip will be in Oklahoma. That will be in summer, August. But there's a trip coming in between. I think it's around Illinois. Are we going to Tennessee again? Tennessee, and we have some summer camp happening, and then we have like E-team, so we are teaching those students, and then we prepare them for the Japan trip. And we are our fundraising. Actually, we want to thank you for supporting us through the prayer. Thank you so much, because without prayer we cannot do that. And quickly, like we had a conference in Tennessee, and we learned about how powerful, super powerful. We had like a pastor from Africa talked about powerful prayer. And because of prayer, all these people who are eating sands and broken glasses, and to people who put himself into a tiny box, came to Christ. Even those like assassins who trying to poison pastor came to Christ. So that's a powerful prayer. So without prayer, we cannot do anything. So thank you so much. We are at like 39%, and I think we have more coming up. So we want to keep you updated on our fundraising trip.
I want to encourage you and thank you for those of you who have joined our newsletter and to be a part of what God is doing. If you aren't a part of it, I want to encourage you to join it, just because it's really powerful to watch God do incredible things. In the last few weeks, we were able to ask some specific prayer requests, and I'm going to share those with you. One, we asked for the Easter event that was happening in Japan. I know all of our churches consider Easter a great outreach and a great time to talk so freely and openly and specifically about the risen Savior. And so, of course, this isn't a good opportunity in Japan as well. And so I asked our people in our newsletter to be praying around the clock 3 days prior to Easter, and over specific requests such as favor from the police who were attending and watching the event, favor that people would come, that the devil would not hinder new people from coming. And there were a lot of new people that came to that event. There was complete favor by the police. They were allowed early into the event to set up, and it went really smoothly. Every request that we asked, even bold and specific ones, were answered. The Lord showed his graciousness on that event, and I just really encourage you just to praise the Lord with us for that. And the other one was last week. We just prayed that God would send new partners, specifically 20. We had a big event coming up in Pennsylvania where I had opportunity to meet so many new people who hadn't heard directly from a Japan missionary before. So this was a great opportunity for people to hear about the desperate need for the gospel in Japan. And so we prayed for 20 partners, and the Lord sent 13. And so that's really big for a week. It really, really is. And so that's just because people prayed. And so we're really passionate about prayer and what that can mean for the future ministry in Japan. So please, if you haven't and you would like to join our newsletter, it's really simple. It's usually a minute-long video or just like 3 points that you can pray for, just to be simply involved in what's happening, so we can praise God together and we can go to him in prayer together. So that's all we have for you. Yeah.
So if you can imagine all the miles that they're traveling to get their support. It is not easy to be a missionary out raising support in this economy. It's just not, it's not an easy thing to do. And so here's a young couple that are just absolutely giving the best years of their life to the Lord for mission service. So whatever you can do, whatever we can do as a church to help them, let's do that. Especially pray, and when you have the opportunity, let's make sure that we're supporting them financially, because they cannot get back to Tokyo unless they have a certain amount of money raised. And so let's keep that in mind. I want to just take a moment just to talk about Brother Tim York and about his ministry, and how that my wife and I and Brother Frank and Sister Cookie have become pretty close with the Yorks. We've been in their church in Nashville. But Tim York is a pastor, he's an evangelist, he's an educator, he is our national moderator, and his wife, Sister Phyllis, is also very involved in our denomination, and they love our denomination. But what stands out most to me about Brother Tim York is that he is a servant leader. And I've seen him serve, I've seen him lead our denomination through some pretty heavy business meetings. I've seen him keep his composure. I don't know how he does it. He wears many hats, and but I'm thankful to be able to even know our national moderator, and I know my wife and Frank and Cookie feel the same way, and words really can't explain what an honor it is for us to have him in our church tonight, he and Sister Phyllis. So thank you so much for coming, and so we're going to have our moderator, Brother Tim York, come at this time, and Sister Phyllis is going to speak also. So Brother Tim, won't you come? Let's give him a hand.
Wow, it's a joy to be here. I always look forward to coming to California, and I certainly look forward to being here at Bakersfield. I love your pastor and his wife and Brother Frank and Sister Cook. We love those folks dearly, and consider them dear friends, and thank the Lord for you. I want you to know that God has given you a unique people to lead you, and it's a good leadership. And God has honored your church and honored you. And I hope you know that, because and part of what I do for Free Will Baptist is try to repair broken relationships. That's really what I do, in some sense of the word, practically. And it is an interesting thing to watch a church have a good church, a good leadership, and see what God can really do through that. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment. Now, Brother Mark, you messed me up a little bit. I usually introduce Phyllis as my mom. But it doesn't go over well at home. He's already given me that, no. A few years ago, Phyllis was the interim director at WNC, and she had to give a report to the National, and I told him this is a historic moment. The moderator's never introduced his mother to give a report before, and of course I got booed about off the stage. Now, Phyllis and I have been married almost 46 years. I was just a baby when she married me. And we have been married. We have 3 children. Our oldest son, Tim, pastors. He's been a missionary to Buffalo, New York, but the last 2 years he is pastoring in Paintsville, Kentucky, and leading a church there. Our daughter, Anna, works for Dr. Moody, and we'll talk more about Dr. Moody in a moment. And Anna's worked there for several years, and she's the one that aggravates everybody when it comes to getting your deadlines for all this stuff and doing all the church directories and all those things. And then our youngest son, Andy, works with me at the Grove Church, and we'll talk more about that. And he and Timothy has 4 children, him and Amanda, and their oldest is 13, their youngest is 2. So, and then Anna has only 1 child, Hallie Joe, and that's probably the only one they're going to have because she's pretty much kept everybody busy. And then we just found out a few months ago that or a few days ago actually, we found out we're going to have another little girl in the family. And Andy and Katie are having a little girl in September. So the 3 oldest, our grandsons, are boys. The 3 youngest are girls. Now, Mimi has spoiled the first 3. So Pops gets to spoil the last 3. Is that how that works? Not the last 3, but the 3 current last ones. And now, I'm going to ask her to come and share WNC. I'm really proud of Phyllis. She edits Treasure Magazine. She's the administrative assistant. And I just see her work every day so hard for WNC, and I'm grateful for that.
It's good to be with you tonight. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share with you about the ministries that we're involved in. As Tim said, I am the assistant to the director, Ruth McDonald. Miss Ruth served in Japan for 38 years, her and her husband as missionaries, and now she's leading WNAC, or Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries, that we kind of have given it a second little name because we want every woman in every Free Will Baptist church to be a part of Free Will Baptist Women's Ministries. Some of the things that Ruth has brought into our resource bank, if you want to call it that, she hosts a podcast, and you can sign up for that you can go to our website and find the information to sign up for that. A lot of times she will have a guest that she will interview about their life or about different things, or then she'll just bring a devotion herself. And that's a new resource that we have. Another thing that we're involved in, it's called Growing Together with WNAC. We partnered with the executive office, and our daughter Anna hosts that with guests that we have on there that cover different topics. A couple months ago, I guess it was, we had a lady on that talked with us about how to make your church autism friendly, and that was a very informative meeting that we had. We had Kelly Penn last month, and she talked with us about how to establish relationships with international students and how you can have that kind of a ministry in your home and in your church. Another thing that we have just started, I just got them before I left the office. We are now doing what we call short runs of our magazine of Treasure Bible Study Guide. We will be charging $5 for each copy that you want. And we will have some to be able to give away at the convention as well, so you can see what they are. Our Bible study guide is called Treasure. This year's theme is Satisfied, and we have a lot of great Bible studies and a lot of complimentary articles to go along with it. And the last thing I want to share with you is our Shine ministry. I don't know if you remember this big event that we had on February the 1st of this year. It was our first ever simulcast of Shine. It was hosted in Nashville at the Donaldson Fellowship. We had 29 locations from here in California to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we had 15 different states that participated in it. And get this, we had over 1,100 participate with us in that Shine event. And that was just an amazing feat or task that we were able to accomplish. And it was, churches here in California that hosted, and churches in Kentucky and churches in Ohio, just everywhere. And the girls had a great time. And we're hoping that this will turn into a discipleship movement for young girls between the ages of 12 and 18. And you can go to Shine FWB and find the things that they're doing there now to help young ladies. There's devotionals and all kinds of things like that young ladies can use to develop their life in Christ. And so those are just some of the new things. that we are doing at WNAC, and we appreciate the opportunity to share, and we appreciate all of the participation that you guys give to WNAC. Thank you.
Brother Mark asked me to share a little bit about what I do as the national moderator. That position has evolved over the years. When I first became the moderator, I ran two meetings, really. I ran when you say run, I chair the executive committee meeting, and then I would chair the general board and chair the national meeting, which in those days started on Wednesday morning and went through Thursday afternoon. We've readjusted now. We start on Tuesday afternoon and end Wednesday afternoon. As time went on, I became a part of the DNA of the national because of being the longest serving moderator. You all know who Benjamin Randall is? We often think he's our founder. There are young men who think I knew him because ever since they've become the convention, I've been the moderator. And but one of the things over the last 5 or 6 years that has really changed as a national moderator, and I don't know if this is a position that when I'm gone this will still hold true, but Brother Moody has kind of engaged me to represent at state meetings. I did a little bit of that before, but nothing like we're doing now. Like last week we were in Mississippi. This week we're with you guys. But anyway, so that's kind of been a new part of the ministry. And then in 2020, I was finishing up my doctorate program with Liberty. Brother Moody shared, it was his first convention. You all know what 2020 was like, right? Everybody was in masks. We were 6 feet apart. There were 48 attended the national convention. I say that truthfully, I believe I've moderated the largest convention, and I may have moderated the smallest convention in 2020. But we met, we did our business, but in that he presented a problem we had that I didn't realize. I knew it was a problem, but I didn't realize how big a problem. And it was the fact that we didn't have enough pastors. We were short on pastors. We thought we were about, 100 churches short. When we really got digging into it, we were 200 out of 2,000. I don't know about your math in California, but over in the East Coast, that's 10%, right? And that's a lot of churches. And so I actually got liberty to let me change my dissertation, my doctorate, and I did on Free Will Baptist churches and the search for pastors. So it's evolved now into what I do with NAM, and several of the departments have gone together to kind of help us. We built a profile that churches fill out when they're without a pastor. And we build a profile for the candidates who fill out. Now, understand, we got a lot more churches needing preachers than we got candidates. And, in all these things, you have to wrestle through those. So what we've been trying to do is find where they match, where they'll agree with each other, where they'll be fighting with each other. One of the things we learned in all of our research was we had to find a way to extend the tenure of pastors. They were too short. They were way too short. Some of them lasted 18 months. And we had to change that trajectory because it was killing our churches. It was killing our leadership. And what it really was doing was running our preachers off, because a guy would try a church and he'd get beat up and he'd leave and never try again. And God's been calling guys, and sometimes we've been killing them after he called them. We're like the folks who killed the prophets at times. And it really is a sad, sad story. But anyway, we've been doing that now for the last 3.5 years, and we're seeing some success. We will tell you the churches that have taken this to heart, did it right, served hard with it, will tell you that the guy they got now is a perfect fit. I had one of the churches ask me to come preach their homecoming. So I went to preach their homecoming, and he'd just been there about 6 months. And so we're getting ready to eat lunch. You all know about homecoming lunch, you know, and I've got the preaching done. When I eat, I'm heading home. And this lady came up to me, elderly lady, who had a grumpy looking face. Anybody ever seen an old woman with a grumpy face? She had it. And she said, I want you to eat at my table. I want to talk to you. I thought, oh, I don't even want to eat. I just want to go home. So anyway, I go through the line, get my food, and I go over and sit down. And she said, tell me more about this profile that we used. So I'm explaining all that to her. And she said, I don't understand it all. Pointed her finger at me, but she said, it works. Because our guy is a fit. And I said, good, I can go have another piece of chicken. I can maybe get dessert now in peace. I think there is something to be understood that pastoring, not like Catholics say, don't even mix those words. But there is a marriage that ought to take place between a pastor and a church, because it's a love relationship. It can't be a hiring and firing relationship. It can't be an employee. It's got to be a love relationship. And I'm telling you right now, if a pastor doesn't love his people, there's no amount of money, there's no amount of rules, there's no amount of bossing will ever let that happen. So what we started working on too in that same time was figuring out how guys who pastor here could pastor here and pastor 2 churches at one time. And for about 3 years, I kept pushing that. I had about 2 guys already doing it, and everybody said, that's impossible. So in September 29th of this past fall, I started doing it. So now I pastor 2 churches. I pastor the Grove Church in Smyrna, which my son Andy is my associate. I could not do half of what I do if Andy wasn't sitting in that position. He's really not associate, he's my co-pastor. But he really understands, he got a lot of my personality, and the people love him, and so I can travel some because of that. Anyway, so when I get finished preaching at the Grove, Phyllis and I, and now we got 2 college students who jump in the car with us, and we head to Rejoice. Rejoice was the old fellowship church. Rejoice had merged a couple times. They went through some tough days. Their pastor got really sick, a young man who was doing a great job, and discouragement set in, and there was probably, I don't know, 15 people when I got there. I'd been doing Wednesday night for them for about a year prior to taking the church. And we're seeing God do some things. The week before Easter, what we have, Phyllis, was 74, 75. It was a big day, but we was thrilled. We was thrilled. I like preaching to crowds. I hate preaching to empty pews, and seats, and that's what we'd been doing. But anyway, God's doing some things. And what we're learning is there's a way a man can pastor 2 churches. Both churches have to work together, and you got to love the denomination and love what we teach as doctrine in order for that to happen. If you're selfish about it, it'll never work. But what we have to learn is you say, why don't they just merge? Well, listen, God put these churches in different neighborhoods, and they're reaching other different people. When you do know your community for the Grove, it was totally different than know your community for Rejoice. For Rejoice, 70% of our neighborhood speaks Spanish. And I know 3, maybe 4 Spanish words. Frank's interpreted for me a lot. He knows I don't know anything. I know C, right? C. But what we're learning is our Spanish church that we've got started there is booming. And now we're reaching into the Nigerian community because they do speak English. And so we're starting to see a diversity of people that represents Rejoiced community. And we had, on our big day, I invited the councilwoman I thought was that district. She actually is the district over, but she came. And she and I have been talking about things that Rejoice can do to help the community, and she can help us. And I got the shock of a lifetime. It was the last Tuesday night. I get a text that says, Pastor, would you be available to pray at Nashville City Council next Tuesday night? Well, I prayed a lot of places. I prayed at the State House. But I gotta tell you, me and most of those Nashville politicians aren't on the same page. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But I'm going. So you pray for me Tuesday night, about 6:30 Central Time, about 4:30 your time. I'm gonna get to do something I doubt any other Free Will Baptist has ever done in the last 40 years. Pray at the city council meeting in Nashville. But anyway, what it shows is we're digging in that community. Over at the Grove, we're among up and comers. Our average age is 35, 36 years old. And what's interesting, they have 2.5 kids. I've figured out what a half kid looks like. But anyway, that's what the percentage works out for. God is doing some good things with pastoring 2 churches. It can be done. Another thing we're doing, and I'm going to hurry along here because I know some of this is probably really boring. One of the things we learned also that when a church is out of pastor, hiring an interim is not always the best thing. Because normally when the pastor is out of pocket, bad culture floats up in the church. Well, if an interim's just coming in preaching on Sunday, he can't deal with any of that. So we're now talking to churches about having a transitional leader, where the church, the transitional leader, which cannot be the next pastor. He cannot be. And a third group, whether it's a state association, whether it's the national, whether it's a district, we don't care who it is, but just make sure these two don't beat up on each other. And they write down in contract what they want to accomplish in that 6-month, year, 18 months, sometimes getting the church to where it is capable of being able to go on its own and have a pastor. Some churches without a pastor aren't ready for a pastor. They would kill a guy if he came in. They've got to get healthy. They've got to get to a certain place. So we're working on those kind of things to help our churches. Because without the local church, nobody's going to Japan. Without the local church, there won't be a women's ministry. Without the local church, there will not be our colleges. Without the local church, there will be no missions, there will be no foundation, there will be no board of retirement, there will be no D6, there will be nothing without local churches. So we've got to return to the local church. Now I want to give you some really good news. This is one of the most exciting times for me. In all my life, I'm 63 years old. I've been a Free Will Baptist all my life. I remember when my aunt joined the Southern Baptist, we thought she'd done messed up for eternity. We wasn't sure she'd even go to heaven. I'm going to tell you, that's how strong Free Will Baptist I grew up in. But I have never seen, and I think I can say this truthfully, for the last 45 years, I've actively served in the denomination. I have never seen every department in Nashville pushing to help the local church like is happening right now. That's why they're worthy of your support. That's why they're worthy, because they're really at the grassroots. And so I'm so thankful for them. And I want you to be thankful for them. And I want you to understand it's not just, it used to be give us money and leave us alone. No, they're pumping money. They're pumping resources. They're doing everything they can to help every church get on its feet and get moving. Another thing I'm doing in my spare time is I coach churches who need revitalization. And I have wrestled this when I was writing that doctorate before I wrote the other doctorate. I wrote this whole book, and I'm just trying to put it together now, that the Lord really touched my heart. This is the way to revitalize the church. And it's Jesus teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. You remember the Beatitudes? He gave us 8 clear Beatitudes. Remember what he said? Blessed is, and if you do it, this is what you are. And then he goes over in the sermon and he explains all 8 of them. Well, all 7 of them to us. The 8th one, he just says when it comes to persecution, you're going to get it. And so what I'm doing now is I'm trying to go into churches that need revitalization And this will be the starting point. This is not the ending point. And do a conference with that church or with several churches, and we talk about that very issue, those 8 relationships that we need to deal with in our churches, and then we began to tear that apart and begin to put it back together again. And we're seeing some success with that. I want you to pray because, again, we got to have strong churches, and may the Lord help us. One other thing I'd like for you to pray for. When I got my doctorate, the state of Kentucky asked me to start a Bible Institute. And so I run a Bible Institute on Monday nights by Zoom. And we got people all over the United States, including Puerto Rico, who are enrolled in these classes. And we just finished last term, and next term we're going to be doing Bible doctrines and homiletics for young guys. And we'll probably have one more class. We're still working on that. And so I just ask you to pray about that with us, because that's become a really good ministry in training people. Our homiletics class is not just for preachers. It'll also have the element of teaching in it, so teachers can take it as well. And I ask you to pray. Every Thursday morning, except for tomorrow morning, I get to teach 20 to 25 Pakistani pastors in Pakistan. And I just have started lining up, and hopefully by the fall we'll have it together. There's a group in India that's not connected to us in any way except they're connected to me. I'm going to start training about 20 pastors there sometime during the week and get them ready to get connected with our folks in India. And so I think God's doing some good stuff. I hope you'll pray for us and ask the Lord to help us and to guide us and direct us. Let me share one thing with you. You came to church. You didn't come to hear all this, right? Psalm 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bring forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Just like the Beatitudes, those first 3 verses say what? Here's how you're blessed. But the ungodly are not so. Verse 4. But like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. And tonight, the word blessed, whether Old Testament Hebrew translation or Greek New Testament, it always means superior living. Now, it doesn't mean we live superior in the sense of lording over people, but it means we have a better quality of life. We have something better than this world has. And that's why Jesus would say to them in the Beatitudes, you're salt and light. Why? Because you got something better than everybody else has got. And tonight we are blessed people when we do 3 things, according to the psalmist. 1, direct our behavior. That's the first thing you ever done, right? It's to direct your behavior. We all learn bad habits, don't we? We learn horrible habits. We learn habits that we never dreamed that we had, but we got them, right? And here's what the psalmist said. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. Now, I used to think when it says walk, stand, and sit was a progression. Walking, standing still, and sitting down. That's not what it is in the Hebrew text. In the Hebrew text, you're walking, standing still, and sitting down all at the same time. And what happens is, when you and I listen to this world, and we take in all the world's philosophy and ideology and all the stuff this world just pours in. And by the way, not just young people. You and I are being invaded by every unbelievable, unsound doctrine in this world. Then we'll stand still while we're still listening, walking with it. And then we begin to not only do we listen to it, but then we begin to live it, and then long to our lips we sit on the seat of the scornful. At the same motion, I'm listening while I'm walking, I'm standing still and I'm living, but then my mouth begins to assert what I've been hearing and living. And that's not direction of behavior. Jesus said, if you want to direct your behavior, don't walk like this world, don't stand like this world, and don't run your mouth like this world. Right? Isn't that hard? Second of all, he said, delight in the book. He said, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and he meditates on it day and night. I always tell people you got to learn the word before you can do anything else. Do you know how many ignorant people there are of the Bible? When I pastored in Ashland, Kentucky, my first church, I was on the volunteer fire department. I've always loved chasing lights and sirens. I have since I was a kid. I went on my first state police call when I was 16 years old as a chaplain, and I'm still doing it today. I was on one Monday. A little 14-year-old boy, we don't know why he died. It was so sad. But I found that, I lost my train of thought now. I've lost where I was heading. Can you help me, Phyllis? She's grinning. That's not helpful. But when you think about the law of the Lord, I still can't remember where I was heading with that. Meditate, there you go. Meditate on it day and night. And I still don't know about the sirens part. But anyway, when you think about meditate, oh, I know what. I got it now. The fire chief told me one day, they had Monday night fire drill. Anybody ever been on a volunteer fire drill? It's the wildest thing you've ever seen. Because you have two groups of people. You got the old man who started the department 55 years ago. They're over here eating donuts and drinking coffee. You got all these young guys trying to prove who's the strongest, the smartest, the fastest, and they're running up and down ladders, and they're swinging off ropes. Now, anybody want to know what group I'm in with even 30 years ago? Coffee and the donuts. So I go over on Monday night and had a chance, and I walked through, and I went over and talked with them. The fire chief called me and said, hey, Tim, Tom needs to talk to you. I said, well, why didn't Tom call me? He said he doesn't know he needs to talk to you. He needs to talk to you, and he'll talk to you if you show up at the fire meeting. So I show up. And he and I had a deal that I used the chief's office at any time I need to counsel one of the firemen. And Tom came by, and Tom was one of our leaders. He said, Richard, can I talk to you a minute? So we go back in the chief's office. He said, have you heard? I said, I heard something. I didn't believe it's true. He said, what'd you hear? I said, I heard you was leaving your wife. She told me. He said, that's true. He's a deacon at Baptist Church. He said, God led me to another woman. You know what I said? That's not true. That's a lie. Your flesh might have led you there, but I promise you the God of the Bible did not lead you there. Now, the reason I knew that, his wife Daisy cut my hair, and she didn't talk about Tom. She gets cut too close. I said, Daisy, slow down. Don't mess my hair up talking about Tom, because she cut everything just talking about it. Mad. Long story short is, Tom married this girl, and I buried her less than 2 years later. I just want you to understand something. Tom's view of the Bible is a lot of people's view. They think, no, you and I delight in the law of the Lord. And we need to meditate on it day and what? Night. And we shouldn't just casually go at it. And then he says, love the Word, learn the Word, love the Word, and then go live it. You ever been in the emergency room when they have to do something? They don't pull a manual out. They don't get the manual out and see what it says. They just go to work on it, buddy. And I mean, they go to work and they know what they're doing. I don't care how tired they are, I don't care how many times they've done it that day, they go to work. You ever been to the police when something goes south and all of a sudden there's guns everywhere and there's bullets flying? Those guys don't pull out the manual to see what to do. They know what to do. They practiced it over and over and over again. And I tell you tonight, God's people need to know the Bible. So we need to direct our behavior, delight in a book. And then he tells us a depth of a bond. I won't take time except to say, he says we're like a tree planted by the river of water that bring forth our fruit in our season. We're in Christ, and therefore everything coming out of us ought to come from Jesus. And he says, you'll bring forth your fruit in your season. 51 years ago, I preached my first sermon. I don't have time to tell you that story. I was 12 years old. I didn't preach in my home church. I announced my call that morning, and they called me that afternoon to go preach that night. I didn't have any idea what preaching really looked like. But I thought if you're going to study for 30 minutes, or going to preach for 30 minutes, you ought to study 30 minutes, so I did that. And I practiced a little bit. Now, I know you never practiced, have you, Mark? Frank, have you ever practiced? Yeah. And where I come from, the preacher half undressed time he got done preaching. I mean, he'd throw his jacket one way and pull his tie off the other way. So I practiced, man. I wanted to be a preacher. That night I got up and I preached everything I knew, some things I don't know, some things I'm still not sure about. And in 3 minutes it was over. Done. And I went over and sit down. Now, the guy behind me, the pastor who actually preached after me, now, he knew how to do it. He literally, and I kid you not, jumped flat-footed and landed flat-footed on that pulpit. Here I am. I only preached 3 minutes. My coat and tie still on, and I'm thinking, heavens, I'll never be a preacher. And then he jumped off on the front row like Superman. I've never seen nothing like it. I mean, and he walked the pews, and he's Free Will Baptist, by the way. Just a regular Free Will Baptist. But I decided that night, as a 12-year-old boy beside my bed, if it was 3 minutes from here on, and you all know I've got past that, that's what it is. God called in my season. So let me encourage you, live on the top shelf, not the bottom shelf. Live blessed with direction of behavior, the light of the book, and the depth of the bond. In these 40-some years of ministry, I've counseled hundreds of families. I've yet to have one come in and get ready to get divorced. Say, we're divorced. She said, he's so handsome on our wedding day. Or she was so beautiful on her wedding. They forgot about that wedding. They're mad. But I have had them sit there and say, it'd be easy to walk away. All the years, all the experiences. What they're saying is all the time. Getting saved is a glorious thing to do. That's the start. It's not the finish. Every day with Jesus. Remember that song? It's sweet. It's what we feel in our spiritual journey. Brother Mark, no.
Let's give him a hand. Thank you. Yeah, I know we got to go. We're short on time. Brother Tim and Sister Phyllis, they left Nashville early this morning and flew into Fresno, came here, and then they're going to Farmersville tomorrow. And so be sure and shake their hand and let them know how much you appreciate them being with us. And then be praying for the state meeting. It's tomorrow night and Friday in Farmersville. Let's go ahead and stand to our feet. And I'm going to ask Pastor Frank. Pastor Frank, will you go ahead and dismiss us in prayer?